cool, we're living our potential, and then we create a big buzz right off the bat because your talent's there, and now we're just putting some work behind the talent. But then when it comes to, okay, we got to grind, we got to do this on a daily basis, you're not willing to work at the same rate I am. At the end of the day, I still work for you because I don't get paid unless you get paid.
He said, who is we? Like, come on, you know it's me and Dame. It's the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast powered by BeatStars, BeatStars.live. Every Monday and Thursday, our free music business mentorship program is going down. It's interactive. You don't have to be a member of BeatStars or of anything, honestly. Just sign up or log on, rather, and join us. 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Dame, how are you feeling?
I'm doing good, man. It's been a busy week, another busy week, but I'm super excited about all the stuff that I'm working on, man. So, things are good. I do want to plug the text marketing sessions one more time because I'm not sure how many more we're going to have, but at least for the next couple Mondays, we're going to have another text marketing session. I've been pulling, scratching, clawing, trying to get artists to use text marketing. It's really a challenge. Like, it's really a challenge, and it shouldn't be. I've been trying to get artists to understand the importance of collecting data for so long, and it's like it's so difficult to do. So I'm just going to show you how effective it is and what it can do for your business with the comedians that I work with, because it's a lot easier to do with them for some reason. But anyway, the text marketing sessions at 1:30. If you want to sign up, just go to the Music Entrepreneur Club Instagram page, and we'll be live at 1:30 Pacific Standard Time every Monday, at least for the next couple Mondays. So join us if you want to learn how to use text marketing, why you should use text marketing, all that stuff. So yeah, that'll be another session soon. Why it's so hard to get artists to do things that are so beneficial to their business.
Okay, so I want to pick up on that because there is this narrative, and it's this narrative that I think is just always present in a lot of our conversations. And it has to do with this notion that creatives, whether you're a singer, songwriter, rapper, producer, beat maker, whatever, that creatives should only be expected to create, and that they should not be expected to learn the business, because that's the job of a manager. That's the job of an A&R. That's the job of a label CEO. That's the job of an attorney. However, the issue becomes that if, in fact, rappers and producers and so forth aren't supposed to learn the business or aren't expected to, when they don't, and when something unfavorable happens or when they get paranoid, who gets all the blame? Not them. And we saw it happen in a lot of instances, and I think for you, famously, it happened with Hopsin, obviously, and that's what a lot of that conversation on the Funk Volume podcast was about. Hopsin admitting that he never really took the time to learn the business, and then he started getting suspicious, and that's when everything just kind of crumbled, and the Funk Volume empire came to a tragic end.
I think it's twofold, right? You get suspicious, but your ego kicks into play too, right? And I've said this several times, like, because you don't learn the business, you don't really know the value of the support that you have, that you're standing on. So it's real easy to be like, oh, me, I did all this, and if I get mad at you, it doesn't matter because I can replace you because you just do this, or you just sit on your computer, or you just send a few emails. Anybody can do that. So it's both of those things.
Right. But as long as that expectation is there, that artists should only make art and never learn the business, then it does two things. One, it puts them in a vulnerable position to be taken advantage of. And two, it puts them in a position where they never have to take accountability for making mistakes. And that's not a cool position to be in.
and it decreases your chances substantially for ever doing anything outside of your bedroom. Like, you're not going to make much progress if you don't have a team and you don't really learn the business. You know, some people get lucky, catch a little viral hit or whatever, but it's extremely difficult to be successful if you don't, you know, learn the business.
Oh, we got Sean here. He actually showed up. Our other twin, our other ethnically ambiguous twin. We can't really hear him.
Can you hear me okay?
I can do overdubs. What's good, everybody? It's Shah. I'm just chilling in my office.
Yo, you really can't hear me?
That's the quietest mic in the history of headsets.
Well, let me get it around the beard. What about now?
That's better.
You just gotta pull the mic closer to your mouth. And
Yeah.
Use your mixtape hosting voice.
Yo, that's too loud and uncomfortable. If I would have known, I have my mixer right here, but I don't have the mic set up right here. So.
Oh, okay. Well, my bad. Thank you for being on here. I bring up your name and your situations a lot on this podcast. And yeah, I'm always talking about that one time that just in general, in terms of management and, the struggles that you went through with managing artists. And you're kind of in a similar position as Dame in the sense that you don't really want to take on managing recording artists anymore, right?
Not not like I used to anyway. I don't want to say it's too much work because I think managing anybody is a lot of work, but what happens is that I want them to be more successful than they do. So you run into a problem, just like in any relationship, when you do more work than another person, you run into problems.
Yeah, that sounds familiar, right, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, it does. And what's crazy is, in music, what's popular these days is the concept of a boss, right? You want to be the boss, you want to be the CEO, but there's no boss or CEO in any other industry that lacks knowledge of how their industry works. Right. So, a lot of young people like the title and it feels good and sounds good in songs, but they don't really want the responsibilities that come with it. They don't even want to understand what the responsibilities are. It's just something that's fun and cool to say. And, I think in the industry, everybody's role evolves. I talked about this with Quinnell Holder a couple of weeks ago on a live MEC session, and he's a publicist. He talked about how the role of a publicist evolved over the years and, how he's added to his responsibilities, especially as independence has become more popular and the kind of the thing to do. Like in the independent realm, everybody's responsibilities grew, right? And there's nobody that can kind of keep the same responsibilities from 20 years ago and adapt to this new music industry. The artist is no different. The manager's role has changed. I would argue that the manager has more responsibilities today than unless you're managing like a super big artist, but so has the artist. The artist has to do a lot more than they did before, but now you have so many more opportunities to create a living in music, which is a great thing. You just have to have the discipline and be able to learn different skill sets, whether that's creating the music or shooting videos, editing, graphic design, or the business side, because it's super important for any business. It sounds ridiculous to say or to continue to say. For any business, you have to learn how that industry operates. And the fact that we have to keep talking about this and seeing the repercussions of this is sad. And I think that's why, we get frustrated and why people like Shah leave the management position. They don't want to do it. Right. So it's tough. And, hopefully one day we don't have to have this conversation as much because it's just a given.
Yeah, Shah, was the last artist that you managed? No, it wasn't. No, never mind. I was going to say, was the last artist that you managed the one that we both managed together, but it wasn't. You managed at least one artist after.
Yeah, it wasn't, but that one kind of started the chain reaction of things where I knew I needed to make changes. Like we were doing things with him that people are just now within the last few years are catching on to do, as far as focusing a little more on social media, getting verified on social media, doing short videos, doing all the things that we were creating for him, just to have him. That was hard, and that let me know that, okay.
That was our hopsin, basically. That was our funk volume blowout. So there's this thing where we'll look at someone and say, oh, they have talent, they can take it to the next level. They might not want to, and that's a major issue with a lot of management. And I want to ask you, because you've managed a ridiculous amount of people based on their talent, and you've fallen in love with their talent, but you didn't know what their goals were. You didn't know what their drive was. And after, 6 months to a year of you pushing them as far as they can go, they start pushing back. Like, I'm not trying to do all this. Why are you pushing me towards this? Why do you want me to do these shows? And it's crazy to you because you're saying you have all this talent. Why don't you want to take it as far as you can and touch as many people as you can? And they just don't.
Shah, even before you answer that, did any artists you work with even really understand the role of the manager?
I would love to say yes, because I tried to explain it to them exactly what a manager does, what you should expect. Because my thing was always trying to get them to learn the business, because if it's just one brain, we're limiting ourselves. So if I can get you caught up to where you understand the business side of things, then we're now two brains working towards the same goal. And it ends up being no. The only one that I work closely with that I think really understands it is, with Payne. He understands it. So when we collab on something, when we do something, it tends to go pretty well, because there's two brains with the same objective. I guess the answer ends up being no. They don't learn it. They're cool with sitting back until they start getting something going. But what they don't realize is that because they're only bringing their talents to the table, it's the hustle behind the scene that's putting the talents out. And then when it comes time to, like, okay, you need to match this work with your work. Well, no, I don't want to do that. You're telling me what to do. No, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm advising you the best course of action. At the end of the day, I still work for you, because I don't get paid unless you get paid. Unless I'm doing deals to get you money, there's not much I can get out of it. I'm just managing you just to manage you and say, cool, I manage you. But there's no money coming in unless you are doing the things that you should be doing, that you should want to do to be successful in your career.
Right.
Did that answer the question? And I guess, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, finish. My bad.
To answer Payne's question, I would say you see it with athletes, and you see it. I mean, you see it across the board every day, and anything that we do. People have tons of talent and potential, but you don't get the Kobe Bryants and the Michael Jordans if they rely on just their talents. In order to be a success, you have to put the work in. And and then what sucks is that I always tell people, me managing you, or, since I train fighters, me coaching you, it's damn near a marriage. You know what I'm saying? Like we're about to get super close, and this is what I'm expecting from you. This is what I want you to expect from me. And let's hold each other accountable to this. But just like when you're dating somebody, you don't really get to know the core of them until you know them about 6 months to a year. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you may have looked good here, but your inside personality is toxic as hell. And now I can't vibe with it. And so that's what ends up happening is like, cool, we're living our potential. And then we create a big buzz right off the bat because your talent's there. And now we're just putting some work behind the talent. But then when it comes to, okay, we got to grind, we got to do this on a daily basis, you're not willing to work at the same rate I am. So if you're not willing to do that, now I'm putting in 80% of the work, but I need you to put in 80% of the work outside of just your getting up and recording. Getting up and recording should be easy. That's the easy part for you. You're an artist. It's the everything else that's work. Just like waking up for me to do business is easy. But if I had to turn around and be an artist, that would be hard work for me because I'm not an artist.
Yeah, I like the marriage metaphor because most marriages end in divorce, and that's certainly the case with management from what I've seen. I've seen. What's the craziest management outcome that you've seen through your experience? Because I could tell you, based on what I've seen with the artists you've worked with, there have just been situations where, and I think I alluded to one on a previous episode, but I want to hear your idea.
I mean, outside of our joint venture, which was bananas to me. It was the one that followed it, where to take an artist, and at this time, white rappers were just becoming like a thing, like common, where they were breaking out more than just these touring artists. So for him to break out, to have certain sponsorships already, to be able to grow, and for, I think Tech9 put it best. Before you become successful anywhere else, you got to take over your own hood. And we took over this city with him to have him playing at some of the biggest venues that other people weren't getting. And I'll never forget this moment. I'll never forget it. It was like, let's just see what we're going to do. No paperwork at first. Let's get the ball rolling. Because to me, that's saving me from like getting myself into a situation that I'm going to end up regretting. We get the ball rolling. Everything is moving forward. And I'm like, okay, we've already done one tour. Let's lock up another one. But this time he's going to open up for, at the time, a Rhyme Sayers artist. So we're going on tour with a Rhyme Sayers artist. Cool. That's in place. I've made that connection happen now. We go to do this event at one of the bigger venues here, and the venue owner shops all his information to one of the major talent agencies.
Wasn't it the agency group?
It was either that one or is it Warner whichever. It was one of those two, but it was because based on Mike. Like, what was dope is that they sent it to the agent that I already previously worked with when I was booking tons of national acts. So they knew who I was. So their exact quote to the venue was, "Oh, wow, yeah, we like what they're doing. This is one of the cleanest things that we've seen coming from an up-and-coming artist. No deal, no sign, no nothing. Who's their man? Oh, they're working with Shah. Okay, we know him from this, and this, and this. He's in good hands. Yeah, let's work something out." The venue owner tells me and this artist this same thing at the same time in their office. We go into the green room before we bounce, and I'm like, okay, cool. You see what's about to happen. Look, let's lock in a management deal, for a year or two, whatever. And we're about to take off because it's now that I know that this agent likes you. By this time next year, we're going to be on full tours. Like, we're just going to be touring nonstop. Everything else is coming to play. This artist told me, no, I don't want to sign a deal because what if somebody like, and this is a verbatim quote, what if somebody like Wiz Khalifa wants to sign me to Taylor Gang? And I said, what does that have to do with your management? That's a label deal that you're talking about. What does that have to do with your management? If you're allowed to not sign, but realize that I'm going to stop working. I'm not going to do anything else but stop working. And he said, yeah, I know, and that sucks, but I just don't want to tie myself into a deal. Okay. I stopped working. I didn't shut his tour down, but I had to let the artist know that he was going on tour with that I wouldn't be there. Once I let that artist know that, they wanted to scrap him from the entire tour. I said, no, don't do that. Try to, like, don't do that. And this artist was like, but I only brought them on based on you. So if you're not there, what is the point? And I couldn't argue with that fact. And it was like, all of a sudden, he lost multiple shows. The show he did do, as far as I know, didn't do too well. And there was nobody there to host the event, nobody to do my job now. And then all of a sudden, this career that was going here, I don't know where it would have ended, instantly went, because now the day-to-day things were left up to him. Getting the shows were left up to him. Doing the things that I was doing was left up to him, and he was no longer doing it. Fast forward 3 years later, I'm getting apologies and saying, hey, can we work this out? Can we work? Yeah, I can forgive you, but that's like me saying to a girl, yeah, you know what? You went and did all this fuck shit, and we broke up, but now I can forgive you for that. But now come back and move back in right away, and let's just start like nothing ever happened. No, that we're not gonna. It's hard to create that buzz again. Artists that are successful have trouble getting that buzz again. Like, you just can't turn it on, turn it off, turn it on. Like, you got to be a special artist to do that. And I knew there was no way to create that buzz again. So why waste my time? And it was just like, because it wasn't just me. Like, the thing is, people, like, it's not a package deal when I manage you that they automatically get access to you, Payne, but they have easier access to you when they're working with me. They have easier access to certain things when they're working with me. And when they're not, it's like those certain things you gotta realize they're gonna be gone. If you work for a company and you get a car, when you no longer work with the company, they're gonna take their car back.
Yeah. No, that's why I look at it as I like the marriage metaphor, because in the way that, you know, if you're married to someone and you decide to divorce them, you no longer get access to their family the same way. They're going to look at you differently. You no longer get access to their friends. You no longer have access to their money and, you know, everything else, depending on the terms of the divorce. I don't know. So you're not just divorcing them, you're divorcing their resources. And when you decide to part ways with a manager, I mean, I'll say this, that was the situation I would have brought up because it was so frustrating to watch. One, because the artist had the talent and the momentum, and I just watched it disappear. But also because, you know, you as a friend of mine, I'm seeing this unfold, and you did a lot. And I talked to Dame about this. This is the situation I brought up because Dame was talking about how he would work and still will work with artists on a temporary basis, at least without any kind of paperwork. So as to just prove what he can offer the artist. You know, the issue is when you do the work as the manager, waive the fee, waive the contract for now, and you say, look what I did. They still might just say, yeah, that's cool, whatever, and walk away. Yeah. And you just put in a bunch of your time and work.
Well, a few things. One of the things that resonated with your story is, you know, the idea, all the scenarios that go through an artist's head of what they can do bigger, right? Like, oh, I might sign, what if Taylor Gang wants me? Like, because Hop did the same thing in the beginning when we were negotiating. He was like, what if Dr. Dre wants to buy my beats for $100,000? Do you get some of that? Like, all these imaginary scenarios, again, going back to really understanding the business, you know, you can temper your expectations. Yeah, it's great to have lofty goals and we're going to shoot for the moon, but like, it's not a for sure thing that you're going to get a Taylor Gang offer, that you're ever even going to meet Dr. Dre. Why are these things being put into our negotiations as a real thing? And why is that put into it? Like, why is that, like, in their mind, it's a for sure thing. So they're negotiating from that perspective, or they're thinking from that perspective. And I think it really just comes back to understanding the business. But I don't work with music artists anymore. It's too difficult. And I definitely won't start at the ground level because, and I'll be honest, there's just not enough money in it. There's not, it takes too long. It takes too long to get things going, and there's not enough money in it. I am not doing what I did for Funk Volume in just a management capacity for hopefully one day making 20% of what you make. Right. I'm not working for 2 years for free, 3 years for free to maybe get 20% of something that's, I'm past that. I'm not doing it. I'm not saying, young artists that don't have, young managers that don't have experience, that's where you start. You put in that sweat equity, and maybe that's the deal you want to strike. But even for a smart young manager, I would say, look, you have to protect yourself. You have to manage your own career. You might get 20% of something in a few years. Just know what you're getting into, because it's a lot of work for maybe 20%. And if that person doesn't really value what you're doing or understand the potential that or the value that you're bringing to their platform or career, that shit is for the birds. Like, I'm cool. and it's so frustrating, just seeing talented artists not being able to realize their potential from my perspective, what could be pretty easy fixes. Like, I'm sure that now you can see talent, or you see how they're moving. You can see if they did some things a little differently, they'd move a lot faster. But in order to get them to understand that, and maybe that's just my failure as a manager, my inability to communicate, I'll own some of that. That's fine. But I'm tired I got tired of just seeing artists that are super dope that I know can move a lot faster, but just won't do the things or won't understand what they need to do. And that shit is frustrating. So I'm cool on managing music artists, man. It's too frustrating. Shah, are you still entertaining it?
I think if I said no, that would be a lie, because I love music. I love it too much. However, what I will say, I've evolved more. So the only artist that I really work with that isn't signed actually eventually took my advice and is now a comedian and finding success as a comedian. So I think pre-COVID, I would have been able to line up a tour for them. I still do a lot of, I pretty much do whatever Payne asks me to do. If he sends me an email, I'll gladly do that. But
you come on the podcast, and I asked you, literally in the middle of the podcast. But that's not inaccurate.
The people that I usually do stuff for, it's because they're grinding for themselves. If I hear somebody that's dope, I might give them some tips and give them some things for free. But that's where I think I get to manage a little bit more with my fighters. So I get to coach my fighters. They pay a gym fee. So no matter what, there's a gym fee. I get to manage their career a little bit that way. As far as, hey, you should be doing this and you should be doing this, and this is what I would advise doing. And because that side of things, it doesn't change too much in any field. Management is management. You just got to understand the business side of things. Will I do it again? I don't know. When I work in these schools doing hip hop programs, and I fall in love with students all the time. There'll be a sophomore in high school, and I'll tell Payne, like, oh my God, this kid is so incredible. He's got his metaphors are insane. The way his cadence is, the way he's doing it. Like, if I just heard him or her on a beat, that would be dope. But then, usually he calms me down, or he says something, and then I put some thought into it, like, yeah, you're right. They're probably not going to do the work that's necessary. They're doing a after school program or something for school. And just like a relationship. If I see a female that I'm dating once a week, I'm always going to be excited about seeing that female. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to truly learn what is going to annoy me about that person, or to see if we really vibe together. And I think artists, it's great to have those goals. It's great to say, oh, Taylor Gang is going to sign me. But at the same time, you've stated already, understand the business. And no one said you had to lock yourself into a 10-year contract. And like, things can be worked out at any time. It's not like any of my contracts were like, oh my, I have your soul. There's always like, hey, if we're not working it out, there's a 30-day, like, we can do something in writing where we disperse after 30 days if we couldn't work something out. And on the financial side of things, if you were really successful, like, there's ways around it. I'm not worried about that because I didn't get into it to rob artists. So there were always ways around it. It's the chances of me going out and grinding the way I was before, where it's like, oh, this artist is dope. I seen him at a show. Hey, you know, do you have management? No. Are you considered, like, those days are gone. Even without COVID, if I was going to shows, those days are gone. Artists still hit me on social media and it's like, do you even know what a manager does? Well, they get me signed. Nope, you're wrong. Go read this link and go do this and teach yourself this and go from there. You probably don't need a manager right now. There's nothing to manage. And so the days of me working with artists that don't really need a manager are gone. I'm 100% done with that, because those artists, I created their need for a management because I believed in their talent. I'm not doing that anymore. If someone's put together and functioning at a high level, they probably already have a management or decided they don't want one. So the chances of me working with them are slim to none anyway. So I don't know if that answered your question. I just can't close the door on it. I love it too much.
Right. Yeah.
I love it too much.
I mean, if I'm being honest, I mean, there might, I've really narrowed what I'm willing to accept or work with. And I don't think I'm happy doing what I'm doing. Like, I'm happy just having the MEC as a passion project, educating artists, working with Foundation. There's some really dope artists that come through Foundation that I really get excited about. And for me, like, I don't even really get excited. I mean, I do get excited by some artists' music, but I get excited by, for example, there's an artist named Jack and his manager named Schwan that just started working with Foundation, and they're super on it, both of them. Like, I see the connection between the two. Like, they're working super hard, 16-hour days. And I just love to support that. So, we're just distribution, but I'm happy to make the connection to an engineer, make the connection to a producer, I basically gave them all of my resources. And I'm happy to do stuff like that. I want to see people win. But if I don't see that same energy and passion on both the artistic side and the business side, I'm good. And I've learned to because for a while, it's like, you don't really understand like why an artist isn't making the small adjustments that they need to make to move. Like, you don't really understand it. And I guess I gave up trying to understand, was what I'm saying.
Oh, there goes I was going to ask, what is it with creatives that make us act the way that we do? I feel like the only reason that I'm successful is because I somehow managed to, and I think that's probably the case for a lot of us, somehow managed to override my emotional, artistic, dramatic, antisocial side just enough where, okay, fine, maybe not. I don't know why. I'm an anomaly.
I would say it like this, because I'm a nerd when it comes to music business, and I'm a nerd when it comes to fighting. I'm constantly studying. I'm very artistic as a coach. I'm extremely artistic. It's like training fighters to fight is like I'm drawing a canvas. The hardest thing for anybody to do is to wake up and do the work. In any field, wake up, do your damn job. It's really simple. If you're an artist, and I know I've heard you talk about this often, set a schedule. You have this time you're recording, this time you're writing, this time you're listening to beats, this time you're doing marketing, this time you're doing social media, this time you're answering. It's literally, you have to work another job. And what I've seen, artists, they don't treat it like a job. But it's not just artists, it's anybody. It's anybody in any field. They don't treat their passion like a job. If you don't treat your passion like a job, how is your passion eventually going to pay you money? I wish.
I know artists don't, they don't typically have organization like that. But, and I think this is what Payne more so wanted to talk about today in terms of like, you can't really just rest on the excuse of being an artist. In today's music industry, we talked about you have to wear many hats, right? There's a bunch of shit that you have to do on the social media side, on the education side. You're constantly creating content, not just the music, different videos. How does TikTok work? How does YouTube work? All these things you need to do. There's no way, well, it's very difficult for you to get all of these things done without some organization. There's just too much shit that you have to do, especially as you're doing this by yourself. So I know that creative folks don't like to be put in blocks of time. Like they don't want to be put in a schedule and they don't want that structure. But if you don't do that, it's going to be very difficult for you to get done everything that you need to get done to have the consistency long enough to see if you even have a chance at building some momentum.
Yeah, and we had A1, and Abe said the same thing about producers. Abe said many producers don't even understand the business that they're in. They don't understand the contracts that they're issuing every time they sell a beat. And, that's a problem, but that's not just a problem that producers have. All artists have that. All creatives have that. And how do we expect to succeed in a music career if we're not understanding the career part? So that being said, I know we're about at the 40.
But before we close out, I want to go in on the managers for a second too, because like I really haven't come across that many young managers that are really prepared to do the job and that are really committed to the idea of management instead of the cool factor of like, I manage artists, right? Like there's definitely bad managers out there. So just like the artist's job has evolved, our jobs have evolved as well. We should have a great understanding of all the different aspects of the business to be able to support the artists we work with. Just bringing that up, I don't want this, we did kind of go in on the artist for a whole 40 minutes, but and for the artists to know, there's not that many people that are well equipped to help you. There's just not. And artists keep looking for managers when you really have to do the job yourself for quite some time. So just know that people that can help artists, especially at early stages, they're in high demand. And they're going to be hard to find. So for the people that want to be in that role, should be learning every day. Perhaps reaching out to a successful independent artist manager. And if you're in a position to give up some time for free to learn how they're moving, I would encourage you to do that. I was actually on Twitter the other day saying, if you start your career at a major, you should be working with independent artists on the side. But even if you want to be an independent artist manager, you should reach out to them. Hopefully you have a skill set and hopefully you're disciplined and professional. You can add value to what they're doing. So you can see the inner workings of a successful independent artist and get a better idea of what your role should consist of. Because I think there's a lot of managers just running around, don't really know what a manager's job is and how to approach or work with their first artist. So maybe I'll go in more on the managers next time since we're running out of time, but
let's extend. We're
not letting managers off the hook because I sympathize with artists that want help because there's not that many people that are well equipped to work with managers at early stages at this point. I don't see it. So it's a growing process.
I think, I definitely concur with that. I think the one thing that I know helped me the most is I never came into it wanting to be a manager. When I started, it was trying to kick off an independent label while going to school and then going into promotions and booking shows. And then from there, taking any connection I made from there and then realizing, well, the things I'm doing with the independent label is basically management. So why don't I just go into that and make that and then do that? And then I was able to really start to really narrow my focus in on the things that I want to do. But I was I talk about this openly. I was very blessed to have people around me that if I had 9,000 ideas, they would tell me 8,999 of them were dumb, or they're going to be way too much. But this idea you have, that's the idea you should go with. And it's very, for me, it's always the people that are more in my circle are always usually smarter than me in a lot of ways. They work as hard or work harder than me. And I trust their advice. Someone like Payne, when I bring ideas to Payne, that might be like a tons of ideas, and he helps filter out, because like otherwise I'm just chasing my tail. And then just putting in the work. A manager's got to do as much work as the artist. I was constantly reading books, constantly looking ahead. Okay, this is where this is going. How can I circumvent this? Or this manager's successful. What's that blueprint? Okay, I could do that, and that, but I can't do that. So how can I do this better without the resources they have? Or how can I do something that's going to be different? It's just that work. And for me, I don't set a schedule. I mean, I create a task list. I literally have a task list that I use every day to keep me on point. Otherwise, I'm like this. So the task list helps me. And then it's like, okay, I didn't get to that, put it on tomorrow's schedule and make sure I get it done tomorrow. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, everyone has to. When you go to a job, you have a list of tasks. You don't just go to your job and sit there and no one delegates anything to you. So the issue is that we know how to do jobs. We know how to run down a task list. We know how to keep a schedule when somebody else is telling us to, but somehow we can't do it for ourselves. So that's another conversation for another day.
Everybody wants to be a boss. Everybody wants to run their own thing, but they don't know how to run their own thing. It's the one thing I say to people. The Marines have this great quote: everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. So if you're not willing to put in the work, how are you going to run your own business? Like, you got to work 10 times harder trying to run your own business. And I think managers, artists, producers, that's the one thing that I know I would always tell them is, like, you are your own business now. That means you have to work harder than anybody else to run your own business to be successful.
Yeah. The last thing that I would say about management and why it's hard for me to manage artists, like the most, because I feel like I have a lot of ideas, and obviously I have ideas that I think are good, but when you manage somebody, you can't just go execute the ideas yourself. Your job is to communicate the value of these ideas, probably do some type of trickery to make the artist seem like it was their idea, and then possibly get to execute it. And that shit is banana. Like, I'm grateful that the comedians that I work with, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking credit for what they do, but even most recently, one of them gave me, he's okay with me coming up with some of the ideas for the sketches. Right. So even on the creative side, I'm getting to exercise my creativity. And there's creativity that's demanded on the business side too. But that's one of the most frustrating things about management. It's like, man, I know if we do this, if we do these things, we're going to kill it. And then you go to the artist and it's like, well, if we do these 10 things, we're going to kill it. What can we do? All right, we'll do 5 of them. So you're like, oh shit. And then they commit to 5 and then do 2. And then you're really like, oh man. So that's the most frustrating thing for me personally about management, because I feel like I have a lot of good ideas and not being able to. That's why I like the MEC, because if I come up with an idea, we just do it. As long as Payne's cool with it, it's like, oh, we want to go on tour, let's do it. I can't think of anything yet that's been a bad idea for the MEC. I mean, there's a few things that I've tried that I've stopped quickly because I just wanted to test it out. But that's the cool thing about working with Payne and having the MEC is just, we just get to execute our ideas. And working with artists, it's that trickery that you got to put on them, and then you don't, not that you need the credit for it, but that you definitely not getting the credit for it, because now it's there. It's their idea.
Marriage,
So,
man. That's what I'm saying. It's like a marriage. It's like if you don't want to be crucified if your idea doesn't work out, but you don't need all the credit if it does work out. It's like that give and take, that compromising. Cool. You don't want to do this idea? Cool. We'll roll with your idea. Just cool. Your idea didn't work. I'm not going to tell you, oh, that was a stupid idea. No, let's find out what worked in that idea so then we could do it better next time and make the adjustments. But it's like, it's lack of communication. Communication a lot of times.
But even with that, you know, now that I'm 40 and have, you know, some years in this, like that's another thing that would frustrate me about managing a young artist. Like there's things I know are not going to work. Mm-hmm. And if I tell you not to touch the stove and you still insist on touching the stove and you burn your hand, like you wasted time, you wasted money. I'm cool. Like I'm not going to there are certain things that I'm just not going to put up with. Like if you think that's going to work for you, then it doesn't make sense for us to work together because you're wasting my time.
Oh boy, this sounds
that's another reason I'm not working.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are reliving our past right now. But you guys are killing me because we're running super long.
My bad. I gotta go anyway.
So, no, it's fine. No, I appreciate you, Shah. Shout out your social media quick.
Everything's at Mr. Get Your Buzz Up. It's really simple. At Mr. Get Your Buzz Up. Really simple.
Not spelled funny.
No.
Not spelled incorrectly. Mr. MRGETYOURBUZZUP. All right, cool. This is the MEC podcast powered by BeatStars, Mondays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're live for our free music business mentorship program. Dame, what's the number they can text so that they can get updated every time we go live?
You can text MEC to 844-206-7800 and you'll get an alert right before we go live to remind you. And we got some really dope sessions coming up. We just had a session about NFTs that was probably more for me than anybody. I'm really trying to understand what the opportunity is with NFTs because, you know, as always, independent artists are going to be at the forefront of this and be able to make the money first. So I'm going to continue to dig into that. And I'm trying to get an artist on. Actually, an artist I see just responded to me that's been selling NFTs. So rock with us. We're talking about a lot of cool stuff.
Appreciate you tuning in. Peace.